The Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, Part 3. Hey guys, here we are back doing the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, Part 3. We're going to do from 40 to 59, and that will be the next piece, and then we'll bring out the following piece the following week. So let's just dive right in and get right to it. I'm going to take a quick drink of my coffee first, though. Jesus said, "A grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its root and will perish." Jesus said, "Whoever has something in hand will be given more, and whoever has nothing will be deprived of even the little they have." Jesus said, "Be passers-by." His disciples said to him, "Who are you to say these things to us? You don't understand who I am from what I say to you. Rather, you have become like the Judeans, for they love the tree but hate its fruit, or they love the fruit but hate the tree." Jesus said, "Whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either on earth or in heaven." Jesus said, "Grapes are not harvested from thorn trees, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. Good persons produce good from what they've stored up. Bad persons produce evil from the wickedness they've stored up in their hearts, and say evil things. For from the overflow of the heart they produce evil." And so you see here the begins to start to create a storyline of the physical world is separate from the spiritual world. A grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its roots and will perish. It's literally saying that the physical world will perish, but you go on. Anything that's apart from the source is impermanent. And so he's basically saying you're in this physical world, but it's separate from the world of source in a way, because it's illusion. And it says, "Whoever has something in hand will be given more. Whoever has nothing will be deprived of even the little they have." This is all about the belief. If I have something in hand, if I have the belief in abundance, a belief in my own wealth, then I will create more wealth, because my belief itself is there. And those who believe they have nothing will be deprived of even what they have, because their belief is they have nothing and they're lacking. This is all about abundance and creation. This is about the idea of you realizing that your abundance is based upon your belief of self. And so this statement here is very clear by that. And then the next line, he says, "Be passers-by." In other words, don't be invested in so much of the illusion. Understand as you're going by, you don't carry extra things with you. If you're a passers-by, you're not carrying your entire lifetime on your shoulders. You're coming through and experiencing life, but you're not carrying things down the road with you. So be a passers-by, someone who sees and experiences but keeps moving and doesn't carry with. This way, you're not picking up all this negative experience and emotions that create the struggles of our lives. So be passers-by. Don't pick up and carry things. His disciples said to him, "Who are you to say these things to us?" He says, you don't understand who I am from what I say to you." He literally is saying in this statement that it doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter at all who I am. It only matters the words and the teachings. Now, I often talk about how the teachings are the most important things, and how, to me, that's why I do what I do, because I believe the teachings are so important. And he's literally saying it doesn't matter who I am. Who this body is the physical form. I'm a passersby. I'm someone who is. It doesn't matter who this passersby is. It only matters what this passerby is saying, and and whether that truth rings to you. And so he's literally saying here that he is not important. Only the information is. And so that should be something that should stand out, because I have often told you that he didn't believe in messiahs, saviors, or Christs. He's literally saying here he is not important. And that to me is a huge statement in this, because the fact that he's saying he is not important tells us that he didn't believe he's a messiah. He believed that he was delivering information. He was a messenger, basically. He then goes on to say, rather you have become like Judeans, for they love the tree but hate its fruit, or they love the fruit but hate the tree. He says he's talking about religion. He's talking about the Judeans. They believe in this messianic culture, but they don't want to hear what message is being brought, or they believe in the message that's being brought, but they don't want to believe in the Messiah, right? Or and so he's talking about the contradiction of religion, and how they're out of skew with each other. He says, do you want to love one another, or do you want to observe the dogmas of your religion, or do you want to forego the dogmas of the religion and love one another? So he's saying they get so trapped in their religious belief, and they're so in their dogmas that they're kind of lost. Is really what this is saying. Jesus said, whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either on earth or in heaven. Well, the either on earth or in heaven thing, to me, that's very much a coming from the Judaic concepts. But if I drop into whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. The Holy Spirit is yourself. The Holy Spirit is who you are. Your Holy Spirit is you out of the physical. It's your higher self. And so whenever you knock yourself down, you're literally creating a horrible experience. And it's not when you cross over there is no need for forgiveness, because nothing was a transgression in a way that is eternal. So in this regard, when you're knocking yourself down, you're creating your experience. And when you're knocking yourself down and you are going against what your better judgments are, and you are blaspheming, which is an interesting word, blaspheming, but you're saying things that are against the belief, basically. This is very much about saying you are creating things that are not to your liking, and you're going to suffer for it. Basically, is what this statement is saying. He says, will not be forgiven, because until you can forgive it, until you can clear that up, it literally is saying you have to clear it. Next line. Grapes are not harvested from thorn trees, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. Good persons produce good from what they've stored up. Bad persons produce evil from the wickedness they've stored up in their hearts. And they say evil things, for the overflow of the heart will produce evil. He's literally saying that you need to actively, consciously produce good. He's saying, and the more you produce, the better you'll store that into your heart. But don't be a bad person and produce and store evil in your heart. Don't hold on to your contentions. Don't hold on to being a victim of life. Don't hold on to these terrible things, these negative aspects of life, because that's just going to store in your heart. And storing in your heart is basically filling your subconscious mind with negative thought. And when the next thing that happens is your what's going to spew out of your mouth is your subconscious thought, because that's what happens. The subconscious mind spews out of your mouth all day long. You're in your subconscious mind 85 to 90% of every day, and the more you have held on to these past negative experiences, the more that comes out of you. You become that negative person from that experience. Bible says, be born again, or become as a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that really means, wipe out all that negativity and start filling your subconscious, start filling your Holy Spirit with positive and good things, and fill up and store that in your heart, and clean off the slate. Jesus said, from Adam to John the Baptist, among those born of women, no one is so much greater than John the Baptist, that his eyes should not be averted. But I have said that whoever among you becomes a child will recognize the Father's kingdom and will become greater than John. Jesus said, a person cannot mount 2 horses or bend 2 bows, and a slave cannot serve 2 masters. Otherwise, the slave will honor the one and offend the other. Nobody drinks aged wine and immediately wants to drink young wine. Young wine is not poured into old wineskins, or they might break, and aged wine is not poured into new wineskin, for it might spoil. An old patch is not sewn into a new garment, since it would create a tear. Jesus said, if 2 make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, move from here, and it will move. Jesus said, congratulations to those who are not alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom, for you have come from it, and you will return there again. So here we have a little bit of a skew here, because the idea of the John the Baptist, which makes me really believe that this is an Essenic writing, because John the Baptist was very much doing the Essenic traditions of ritual baths, baptisms, and so they're very much throwing John the Baptist in here as this is the person that you need to admire sort of statement. But in the next line, they actually say, when you become as a child, when you strip away all of the teachings of the world, all of the experience, come back to your pure self without ritual, dogma, or any of those other things, you become greater than John the Baptist. So the John the Baptist thing's in here specifically to give him a little nod, saying, yeah, you're a great Essene. But then it goes down here, it goes into, a person cannot mount 2 horses or bend 2 bows, and a slave cannot serve 2 masters. In other words, you cannot serve an external religion or a dogma or a ritual and step into your own divinity. It's 2 separate things, external or internal. And the reality of it is that when you limit yourself with dogma and ritual and religion, you literally are missing the teaching's entirety, because they're talking about you stepping into not serving a master instead of being the master, and serving your own divinity. Now, that's not to say become selfish or any of those things. To serve your own divinity is not being selfish, because what happens is the more you step into realizing that you can represent love into the world and step into that divinity, you find that you serve as much, if not more, but you serve without any need for a ritual or dogma or any of this. It's the simplicity of love, and so it's a great statement it's saying here. This says, nobody drinks aged wine and immediately wants young wine again. In other words, if you've learned all of this stuff, you don't want to go back to being the impetuous person who's stacking new belief, right? Young wine is not poured into old wineskins, and new beliefs can't come flowing into something that is pure and known or they may break. And aged wine is not poured into new wineskin, or it might spoil. So it's like you're looking at all these various dichotomies of thought, and they don't mesh. They don't fit. An old patch is not sewn into a new garment, since it would create a tear. The old patch is the former belief. The new garment is the new belief. So it's like the old and the new don't. This whole statement here, the old and new don't match. And the old is the old religion of the Judeans, which he mentions earlier, and it's about none of that matters. It does not matter. This is the truth of it, and the two are at odds with each other. This whole thing starts with cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve the religion and your personal truth, or the love of God, or the divinity, right? And then he goes on to say, if two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, move from here, and it will move. That is a great statement. He's saying, when you come to the place where you have made peace with religion and your own divinity, and come to the place where you have not been mad about religion and angry about how religion has told you one thing. I run into people all the time who are always saying, I'm so mad that I was lied to for all these years. And you know, make peace with it, because I have found beautiful things in all the religions. So there's beauty in all of it. And when you come to the space of realizing that there is beauty in all of it, then you come to the space of realizing that you've made peace with it and your belief, right? And what's so beautiful about that is when you travel, like when I was traveling through Egypt and the Middle East, you know, I met beautiful, wonderful, loving people everywhere I went. Muslims, right? Christianity doesn't necessarily get along with them that well, right? I found wonderful people in India, Hindus, right? I met Buddhists, and I have found beauty in all of it. But I'm not attached to what my former religion says, nor what their religion says. I'm coming at it from the aspect of we're all one, right? And so I've made peace with religion and my own belief. And I accept it. You'll see that in my comments section all the time. I say, I respect your beliefs. I do respect their beliefs. It's because that is their personal journey. It's for them to travel, right? I had someone accuse me in the comments section that my saying I respect their beliefs was a lie, and that I was just being derisive of their belief. That was their interpretation from what was stored up in their hearts. The hate and the anger stored up in their hearts created a story around my words, because all they saw were my words. They never heard my intent. They never heard anything there. They added their own story. And this happens a lot. When you're sharing your truth, people will add stories. And every morning when I go into my comment sections, I literally have to say, you're adding a story here. Well, that does not fit. You're adding too much. You're getting in your head and out of your heart. And that's really an important thing. When you make balance between your former beliefs and your new beliefs, then you will be able to ask a mountain to move, it'll move. You'll suddenly realize that once you've made that balance, that you have unlimited potentials. But the religions give you potentials, give you limitations. I'm sorry. Congratulations to those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom, for you have come from it, and you will return there again. In other words, you've stripped away all of the physical world, dogmas, rituals, ceremonies, and need for the physical hoarding that we tend to do here on earth. And you've chosen. And when it says alone, he's not saying be a hermit. It's coming to your own personal truth, as opposed to following a religion or a dogma, it's you who come to yourself alone. You can still be interacting with millions of people. I interact with people all day long, but I come at it from my perspective, and I'm non-apologetic about my belief. Many people are very apologetic about their belief because their belief is contrary to somebody else's belief. This is my belief. People often want me to argue my faith, argue my belief. I won't argue it because I'm very confident in it, and it's my belief alone, right? Many people will find their own belief, their own truth in the words that I'm saying. Many people will not, but it's your belief alone. When you come to that space of not needing a religion, not needing the dogmas, not needing the rituals, and you come to that space of realizing that you yourself are the one who gets to choose, then you really come to this place. He says, congratulations to those who are alone and chosen. Chosen is an interesting word. He's not saying chosen by God. He's alone and chosen. I have chosen my life. I have chosen the way I live. I am making choice. And for you will find the kingdom. And it's true. When you start releasing all the stuff, you start having the experiences that everyone wants to have. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And it's so simple. The simplicity of our connection to Source is amazing because of the fact that it's always there. The only thing that stops us from seeing it is our religions, our rituals, our dogmas, all the things that are external that we are trying to use to get to it. When you release those things, it's always there. It has never left you. When I say God is found at the bottom of every breath, that's exactly what I mean. The source is right there when you set down all your fears and anxieties. Every religion in the world is wrapped in fear of some kind. You have to meditate in this way. Well, I'm afraid if I don't do it right, I'll screw it up. It might not be saying you'll burn in hell, but it might. It's giving you all these rituals and rules, and you're like, I gotta learn this. And then you have this fear of not being able to learn it or doing it right. And so it comes back to releasing the fear. The Buddha said the secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear. And it comes back to that place of releasing the dogmas and rituals and ceremonies and all the things, because all of those things elicit fear. Come back to who you are. It says, congratulations to those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom, for you have come from it, and you will return there again. This is precisely what he's talking about here. Jesus said, if they say to you, where have you come from? Say to them, we have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image. If they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children. We are the chosen of the living Father. And if they ask you, what is the evidence of your Father in you? Say to them, it is motion and rest. His disciples said to him, when will the rest for the dead take place? And when will the new world come? He said to them, what you are looking forward to has come, but you don't know it. His disciples said to him, 24 prophets have spoken in Israel, and they all spoke of you. He said to them, you have disregarded the living one who is in your presence, and have spoken of the dead. If they ask you, what is the evidence of the Father in you? Say to them, it is motion and rest. His disciples said to him, is circumcision useful or not? He said to them, if it were useful, their father would produce children already circumcised from their mother. Rather, the true circumcision in spirit has become profitable in every respect. Jesus said, congratulations to the poor, for to you belongs heaven's kingdom. So as you see here, Yeshua is once again saying that each one of us is the child of God and the direct connection to Source. He says, if you say to you, where do you come from? Say, I've come from the light. Say, I've come from God. I'm one with God. I'm one with this light. And from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image. In other words, you're looking at me, and I'm part of God. And so this first statement here is literally when someone says, what do you believe? Where do you come from? You say, I am of God, as we all are. We're all a part of God. And so he's teaching you that not only are you divine, but you are part and co-creator with God, and God is himself, himself. It doesn't really matter gender, but it matters about the understanding that you and God are one, and that is huge. He says, if they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children of the chosen. We are the chosen of the living Father. Now, the chosen, once again, this implies that they are delineated from others, right? And the interesting thing is, in the living Father, in other words, we are choice itself. We are the ones who are living as one with the source, one with God, and it's the living aspect in the physical world that they're discussing here. So what is the evidence of your Father? He says, I basically am the evidence, and he says, what is the evidence of the Father? I say to them, it is motion and rest. Look, I'm moving, I'm resting, I am here in the physical, I am showing you the Father right in front of you. And you're the Father too, basically. He's saying it's just a matter of being aware of it. It's coming to the awareness of that oneness. Being aware that you're from the light, and aware that the image of you is a reflection of your belief, and that reflection of belief is being shown to you in the image of God. So that's what this first part talks about. And then they ask, when will the rest for the dead take place, and when will the new world come? And he says, what you're looking for has already come, but you don't know it. He's saying you're not aware of the fact that everything is already here. All potential, all experience is already here. It's already come. But as long as you're staying focused on it not being here, you're creating something different. You're creating this separation. But you don't know it because you've created this separation, because it's your belief that's creating. And so when you look at this concept here of, what you're looking forward to has come, but you don't know it. It's here. All you have to do is accept it, acknowledge it, and be aware of it. And the accepting and the acknowledging and the being aware of it allows you to create something beautiful, as opposed to something hurtful or hateful. And the disciple said, 24 prophets have spoken in Israel, and they all spoke of you. I love this thing, because the disciples are saying, look at all this Judaic prophecy about you. And then he says, you have disregarded the living one who is in your presence and have spoken of the dead. He's not talking about being the Messiah or the disciple. He says, who gives a crap about all that stuff? All those dead prophets saying prophecies. I'm right here, right now, and I'm speaking a truth. Are you taking it or not, or are you going to stay focused on the Judaic prophecies? He's literally disregarding Judaism, and he gets really into disregarding it a little bit later on in this segment. His disciple said, is circumcision useful or not? Here we go. He's going to knock the crap out of Judaism right here, right now. He said, if it were useful, their father would produce children already circumcised from their mother. Rather, the true circumcision in spirit has become profitable in every respect. Now, the word profitable is not meant to be a monetary thing. It's about being, I'm profiting from, I'm experiencing, or I'm getting better from, basically. He's saying the circumcision. What is the circumcision? It's the cutting away. It's the taking away of all the things that is hindering you from profiting of your connection to God, right? Or experiencing that connection to God. He's literally saying, don't circumcise the body, circumcise the things in your life that keep you separate from Source. And so he's saying, what's so beautiful about this statement is he once again is saying, don't follow the religion. Everybody wants to make him out to be some Jewish man who was fulfilling Judaic prophecy. Right here he's saying, don't follow the Judaic traditions. Right here he's saying, don't follow the Judaic rituals. And he's literally saying, don't do that. And then he says, congratulations to the poor, for to you belongs heaven's kingdom. What's so beautiful about that statement is this is not about finances or money at all. This is about the ones who don't have those Judaic beliefs, those rituals, because they're the ones who come to know the source, come back to the awareness of their connection to God. And that's huge, because what they've done is they've come to a space where they don't have anything between. There's no middleman. There's nothing between them and God and their oneness with God. And so by being poor of religion, being poor of dogma, being poor of ritual, being poor of ceremony, being poor of mutilating children's bodies for circumcision, they've come back to this place of being just perfect and one with God. And that's huge. And that's exactly what he's talking about here. He's talking about this concept of you being one with God. You being one with God. And by being one with God, you don't have to have anything else, because all those other things are trying to get you to God, when in reality you're already one with God. And that's what he's talking about here. Congratulations to the poor, for to you belongs the kingdom of heaven, right? It comes down to the idea of all of those Judaic principles, all of those rituals, all of those dogmas, not valuable. That's what he's teaching. Now, if they are valuable to you, I respect your choice. But it's not what Joshua taught. Joshua taught absolutely that you should strip away all ritual, all dogma, all religion, and just come to your oneness with God. Jesus said, "Whoever does not hate father and mother cannot be my disciple, and whoever does not hate brothers and sisters and carry the cross as I do will not be worthy of me." Jesus said, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass, and whoever has discovered a carcass of that person, the world is not worthy." Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who has good seed. His enemy came during the night and sowed seed among the good seed. The person did not let the workers pull up the weeds, but said to them, 'No, otherwise you might go pull up the weeds and pull up the wheat along with them. For on the day of the harvest the weeds will be conspicuous and will be pulled up and burned.'" Jesus said, "Congratulations to the person who has toiled and has found life." Jesus said, "Look to the living one as long as you live. Otherwise, you might die and then try to see the living one, and you will be unable to see." So, in this first section here, whoever does not hate the father and mother cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not hate the brothers and sisters and carry the cross as I do will not be worthy of me. First of all, Joshua would never say something like this, because he never was putting himself in a position where you had to prove yourself worthy. And it's proven many times in the Bible that he treated everyone equally. And so there is this is obviously something of the Essenic teachings, trying to get you to think of him as a Messiah. Whoever does not hate the father and mother cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not hate brothers and sisters and carry the cross as I do will not be worthy of me. So I would completely negate this statement. The one thing that I would say in this statement is the part with hating the father and mother. It was not necessarily, it would be about hate itself. It would be about releasing the beliefs of the father and mother. And then carrying the cross as I do is not about his suffering at the end. It's about being the belief. But there's no part of this where Jeshua would have ever said, "You're not worthy," because that's not his belief in any way, shape, or form that I recall. He says, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass, and whoever's discovered a carcass of that person, the world is not worthy." Now, whoever's come to know the world, in other words, whoever's gotten so into the material world that they have invested in all of this world, and the world is nothing but a shell, a carcass, an expression of belief. But whenever you go down those rabbit holes of materialism, you've come to know a carcass. And it says, whoever has discovered a carcass of that person, the world is not worthy. In other words, that person is just going to get lost and just be off in those things, and it's going to be a mess of a life for them, because they've come to discover the carcass and know the world, as opposed to being a passersby, as he said earlier, as opposed to being someone who is invested in the physical and not passing by and experiencing. And that's kind of what this section here is talking about, is the idea of that being invested in the physical world. And then he goes to the next section here. He talks about the Father's kingdom. Jesus said the Father's kingdom was like a person who has good seed. His enemy came during the night and sowed weeds among the good seed. The person did not let the workers pull up the weeds, but said to them, "No, otherwise you may pull up the weeds and pull out the wheat along with them. For on the day of harvest, the weeds will be conspicuous and will be pulled up and burned." That to me is an interesting statement, because he's saying the more the wheat gets strong and tall, the more the truth becomes to light and grow to the sun, the more it grows up, the more the things that aren't wheat, the things that aren't truth, become conspicuous. And they start to show themselves as fearful and hateful. And I think that's really what's happening right now in our world. People are coming to the point where, like, that's a hateful thing to say. It's a terrible thing to say. Why are you casting such fear and judgment? People are second-guessing religion because the religions themselves are proving themselves to be fearful. And so it literally is saying here that those fearful things are in amongst all of these beliefs. And now as truth is coming to light and growing up into a full-grown plant of love, that the weeds and the fearful things really become very conspicuous. He says, and for the day of harvest, the weeds will be conspicuous and will be pulled out and burned. In other words, all of the fearful things that we're experiencing will be taken away, will be released, will be eradicated from the world because they don't serve us. And I think that's exactly what's happening right now in the world. We are literally seeing the things that are fearful, hateful, judgmental, and they're changing as we speak. It's so interesting when you think about the way the world has happened and the way the world is working right now. It comes back to this place of understanding that we live in a world of absolute fear and anxiety, but it's being overtaken by love. Like right now, just yesterday in Florida, there was a poem that was banned in an elementary school, right? Here's a line from that poem. "There is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it." That poem was just banned from children reading it. There's always a light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it. And so it's not about hate, it's about coming together. It's about us being brave enough to love. That's what that poem is about. And this school, out of religious fear, has banned that speech. And so it comes down to the idea of the weeds are starting to show themselves. And in that case, the people who are coming out and standing up for Amanda Gorman right now are burning out the weeds that are surrounding her. And that to me is beautiful. I love to see this standing up for her beautiful poem, which I thought was one of the most moving poems. I remember watching it live and just crying as I heard her read it, because it was so moving and so stunning and so beautiful and so loving. And it was all about, in those moments, being strong in your love and compassion. It's a beautiful poem. Next line says, Jesus says, "Congratulations to the person who has toiled and has found life." Toiled. The word toil is interesting here. It's the person who has not gone down the road of religion, gone down the road of, because in the time when you're toiling, the word toiled means to procrastinate, to avoid, to not do what's expected of you. You've toiled. Because the word toiled comes from a judgmental point of view. Someone says, you're toiling instead of practicing. And when I was in Afghanistan, there's the big deal about kids weren't allowed to fly kites, which is what the book The Kite Runner is about, right? But they weren't allowed to fly kites. And I remember flying into Afghanistan on one of my USO tours, and the plane had to avoid kites in the air. And the pilots were like, "We're so happy to avoid kites in the air." Because, he says, before we came, if you had time to play, you had time to pray. And that's what the Taliban were doing to the kids. They weren't allowed to fly kites, because if they're flying kites, they're not praying. And so the kids were toiling by flying their kites. But they were enjoying and loving flying their kites. They were expressing God into the world. Congratulations to the person who has toiled and found life. They've gone out and they've found the joy of living, of flying their kite. And that to me, it's a beautiful statement. Congratulations to the person who has lived their own life their own way. They've toiled because they haven't done what others have expected them to do. Not that they're shirking responsibility, but they're living their life their way without having to change who they are for someone else. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful statement. And the last line of this is, look to the living one as long as you live. Otherwise, you might die, and then try to see the living one, and you will be unable to see. Live your life. Live your life in a beautiful, loving, unique way. Live your life, and then when you pass away, you'll regret it. And you won't be able to see a good life behind you. You won't be able to see that experience of that joyful life behind you. You'll just see the turmoil and the struggle of trying to fit in with other people's beliefs. Live your life. And that is the key to this, is that you are the creator of your experience. And only you get to choose that experience. And that in itself is a beautiful statement about your divinity, about your ability to step into a greater role on your own life. And release the rituals, dogmas, and ceremonies of the father and the mother, and be you to your fullest. And then you will see the life of your dreams. And that, my friends, is the next segment of the Gospel of Thomas, part 3. And this video will be out today, Sunday, May 28th, 2 days after my birthday. I know it's a couple days late, but my birthday was Friday, so I didn't make the video until today. The next one should be out by Friday, and I will announce it on the channel when it's live, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. The Level Up Spirit channel is solely funded by your generous donations and purchases of private readings and merchandise. Please go to johnofnew.com or use the donation link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment.